Two people who had never met before in their lives bump into each other on the street and discover they look identical. This event, known as an optical illusion, is quite rare, but not unheard of. However, it becomes even more shocking when we learn about two men who encountered each other despite living in different parts of the world. James Lewis and Jim Springer were leading separate lives. James was raised in Detroit while Jim was born and raised in Miami. They both married women named Linda and had children. They also both worked in construction. But there was one more thing they had in common. They both experienced strange coincidences involving dates. Each of them married. On June 21, 1961, then each of them had their first child on the same day 3 years later. To top it off, each of them got divorced on the same day, December 17, 1975. And if that's not enough, each of them remarried on the same day, November 28, 1976. The story took another weird turn when they met for the first time. At a bowling alley in 1980, they learned about all the coincidences in their lives and realized they were identical. It turns out they were separated at birth and adopted by two different families. The man predicted his own death. In 1908, a man named Immanuel Kant published a book titled Anthropology from a Pragmatic Point of View. Kant believed that human reason was capable of understanding the world around us, but only through our own experiences and interactions with others. However, he made a shocking prediction. He claimed that the world would end within 84 years after the publication of his book. Many people were shocked when this prophecy came true. 84 years after the book was published in 1992, Hurricane Andrew hit Florida and caused significant damage, leaving many people dead or injured. But there's more. In 1908, a woman named Helena Blavatsky wrote a book titled The Secret Doctrine, which included a prediction that a major catastrophic event would occur in 1984. This event would cause widespread destruction and death. Similar to what happened in 1992, both Kant's and Blavatsky's predictions were eerily accurate. How could they have predicted such a specific event so far in advance? A couple whose love story defied time? Sarah and John were a young couple deeply in love and planning their future together. However, their happiness was short-lived. After getting married, John left for university in another city. During his absence, Sarah received a letter informing her that she was pregnant with their child. Unable to bear the pain of separation and uncertainty, she tragically took her own life. John returned home only to find Sarah's lifeless body, cradling a letter that revealed the truth behind her actions. Heartbroken, he buried her and mourned the loss of his beloved wife. Years passed and John moved on with his life, marrying another woman. However, fate had a strange twist in store for him. One day, he saw a young girl who looked strikingly similar to his late wife. Intrigued, he approached her and asked if she knew anything about her biological mother. The girl responded that she did and revealed that her name was Sarah. She also mentioned that her biological mother had died shortly after giving birth to her. John was stunned and realized that the girl was actually his daughter, conceived during his brief time with Sarah before her untimely death.
Ow.
The coincidences that brought them together after all those years left them both speechless. An exact replica. In 1999, a peculiar case unfolded in Australia. A resident noticed a person walking down the street who looked exactly like him. Intrigued, he decided to approach the individual and introduced himself. To his astonishment, the other person also introduced himself with the same name. As they talked, they realized they shared the same birthday and even had the same family members. However, there was one crucial difference. They had different colored eyes. When DNA tests were conducted, it was discovered that the two men were biologically related. They had the same parents and were identical twins separated at birth. They had no idea they had a twin until they were 33 years old. The death of a prophet. Nostradamus was a renowned prophet who made predictions about future events. One of his most famous prophecies was about the French town of Salon-de-Provence, where he predicted that it would suffer from a great calamity in the year 1265. Interestingly, this prophecy came true when the town was destroyed by an earthquake. However, there's more. According to legend, Nostradamus also predicted his own death. He supposedly foretold that he would die on July 19, 1483. What makes this prediction remarkable is that it came true with astonishing accuracy. When Nostradamus' remains were exhumed, they revealed that he had died on July 19, 1483. His death certificate even supported this, indicating that he passed away at around 3 in the morning. The fact that he predicted his own death to the exact day remains a fascinating mystery. The man who predicted his own death, Richard Waldo Emerson, was a successful writer and philosopher. He's best known for his essay Self-Reliance, which advocates for trusting oneself rather than blindly following societal norms and expectations. However, Emerson's life took a tragic turn when his wife Ellen died in 1831. Grief-stricken, he began writing about his feelings and poured his heart out in essays like The Experience of Loss. Little did he know that he was writing about his own future. 5 years later, in 1836, Emerson suffered a mental breakdown and attempted to take his own life. Although he survived the attempt, he remained mentally unstable and spent the rest of his life secluded from society. His prediction of his own death through writing remains a haunting example of how the mind can sometimes foreshadow what the heart feels. The mysterious case of the ship. In 1881, a British ship called the Titan set sail on a journey from New York to Liverpool. On board was a young man named Morgan Robertson, who was traveling alone without any friends or family. When the ship arrived in Liverpool, Robertson mysteriously disappeared. His belongings were found abandoned on the ship, but no trace of him could be found. The case remained unsolved for over a century, until a surprising discovery was made. In 1994, a man named Paul Rosalie was exploring the wreck of the Titanic when he stumbled upon a lifeboat that had been preserved for over 100 years. The lifeboat contained various items, including a photograph of a young man named Morgan Robertson. The photograph was dated April 15, 1911, exactly 10 years before the Titanic sank. The discovery of the photograph suggested that Robertson may have boarded the Titanic and perished when it sank. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart. In 1937, Amelia Earhart became famous for disappearing while trying to circumnavigate the globe. Her plane was last spotted near Howland Island in the Indian Ocean, but no trace of her or the plane has ever been found. There are many theories about what happened to her, but none have been confirmed. In 2017, a group of amateur sleuths claimed to have found evidence that Earhart may have landed on a remote island in the Indian Ocean and died there. They used historical documents and satellite images to support their theory. However, the discovery was controversial, and other experts disputed their findings. Despite the uncertainty surrounding her disappearance, Earhart's legacy as a pioneering aviator and adventurer continues to inspire people around the world. The death of Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was a renowned American writer, poet, and literary critic. He is best known for his dark and macabre tales of mystery and horror, such as The Telltale Heart and The Raven. However, Poe's life was filled with tragedy and misfortune, and his death was no exception. He died under mysterious circumstances in Baltimore, Maryland, on October 7, 1849. One prevailing theory suggests that Poe's death was caused by the consumption of narcotics, such as laudanum, which was a popular treatment for various ailments in the 19th century. Others believe that he died from alcohol-related causes or heart disease. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his death, Poe's literary contributions continue to captivate readers, and his work remains an essential part of American literature. The mysterious case of Benjamin Bathurst. Benjamin Bathurst was a prominent British politician who served as the Chancellor of the Exchequer from 1828 to 1829. During his tenure, he implemented a series of economic policies that aimed to reduce government spending and increase revenue. However, Bathurst's political career was cut short. When he died suddenly in 1834 at the age of 55, the circumstances surrounding his death were suspicious, and rumors circulated that he had been poisoned. Some believed that Bathurst was targeted by political rivals who opposed his economic policies, while others suspected that his death was the result of a personal vendetta. Despite the theories and speculations, the true cause of Bathurst's death remains unknown, and the case remains a subject of intrigue and debate among historians. The death of President William McKinley. William McKinley was the 25th President of the United States, and is remembered for his leadership during the Spanish-American War and the Philippine-American War. However, his presidency was cut short when he was assassinated by an anarchist named Leon Czolgosz on September 14, 1901. The shooting occurred at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, and McKinley died 8 days later from complications due to the gunshot wound. The assassination of McKinley was a shock to the nation, and led to significant changes in presidential security protocols. The sinking of the Titan. In 2022, a tourist submarine named Titan went missing during a dive to the wreckage of the Titanic. The submarine was operated by a company called OceanGate and carried 5 people, including the CEO of the company. The Titan was equipped with life support and enough oxygen for 3 days, but it's unclear how long the passengers survived. The U.S. Coast Guard suspended the search for the missing vessel after 4 days, believing that the people on board had died. Debris from the Titan was later found on the ocean floor, confirming that the submarine had suffered a catastrophic implosion. The incident raised questions about the safety regulations and practices of the tourism industry. Mark Twain's predictions. Samuel Langhorne Clemens, better known by his pen name Mark Twain, was an American writer and humorist. He's best known for his novels The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which are considered classics of American literature. Twain was also known for his wit and his ability to predict future events. In 1861, Twain wrote a letter to his friend Charles Langdon, in which he predicted that the Civil War would last until 1865 and that the United States would become a greater country as a result. The war ended in 1865, and many consider the United States a greater country today because of the abolition of slavery. Twain also predicted the invention of the telephone in 1876, although he couldn't explain how it would work. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in that same year. Twain's predictions seemed almost supernatural, but they were likely the result of his intelligence and knowledge of history. A man who predicted the sinking of the Titanic. Morgan Robertson was a sailor who claimed to have survived the sinking of the Titanic. According to Robertson, he was on board the ship when it struck an iceberg and sank. He managed to escape in a lifeboat, along with other survivors, and was rescued by another ship. Robertson's story was widely publicized, and many people believed him. However, some skeptics argued that he was lying to gain attention. They pointed out that there was no evidence to support Robertson's claims and that his story was inconsistent. Despite the skepticism, Robertson persisted in his story and even wrote a book about his experience. He died in 1945 without ever giving up his claim. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for more updates and check out more videos like this one. Your support is greatly appreciated. You know of any other strange coincidences? Share your thoughts below.